Just start with the big three. This is a piece of advice that all of us have probably heard at one point or another on our lifting journey. Or if you're someone who is thinking about getting into working out, first of all, stop thinking about it, get off your ass, and start working out. But if you're thinking about working out and you've watched some videos, tried to kind of find some advice on how to do that, how to get into it, what types of exercises to do, you feel a little bit overwhelmed, you have probably also stumbled across this advice. Just start with the big three: bench press, squat, deadlift. You're good. And in fact, a lot of people focus on the big three way into their lifting journey. There are a lot of more or less intermediate lifters who essentially just do the big three, or essentially just go hard on the big three and then do a little bit of what they like to call accessory work on the side. I am here to tell you in this video, as you can already glean from the title and probably the thumbnail, that the big three are a shit exercise selection. The big three ain't it. And before anyone, gets all hot and bothered about what I just said, I'm not saying that because the big three, quote unquote, I actually hate that terminology as well, but these are not terrible exercises individually speaking. The squat, the bench press, the deadlift, they all have their value. They all have their place. Though I would argue for the bench press, there are probably better alternatives for most people, and in particular for people who have certain types of builds. But overall, these are fine exercises in and of themselves. They can absolutely be part of a great workout program. The problem is combining these three and making them the core of a workout program, or even the only thing you're doing at the gym. The big three is an exercise selection, first of all, that consists of 2 lower body exercises and 1 upper body exercise. Because the deadlift is fundamentally more of a lower body exercise. That doesn't mean the upper body isn't working at all, but the upper body is technically also working in some capacity on the squat. Is the squat an upper body exercise because of that? No. If we look at the muscles that are being hit on a deadlift, the mass that you're going to be building overall is mostly skewed towards the lower body. So what we got right off the bat is an exercise program that is 2/3 lower body and 1/3 upper body. Are you a woman? I assume the answer is no if you're watching this video, because I have checked my analytics and there are very few females watching this channel. In fact, I think there's one person, judging from the amount of viewers I have and the statistics I looked at. So you're probably not a woman, in which case the idea that you would be doing 2/3 lower body work and 1/3 upper body work is already absurd. But let's go a little bit deeper here, right? Let's go down this rabbit hole of the big three as the ultimate skeleton exercise selection, or the ultimate beginner's exercise selection. What are we doing for the upper body? What does bench press hit? Of course, I think everyone knows that bench press hits the chest. It also hits the triceps and the front delts, and that's about it. That's really basically everything you're doing with the bench press. Is that all the upper body has? No, not really. There's a lot of muscles that are being neglected here. In fact, all of the muscles I just mentioned, except for the triceps maybe, which are just part of the arm, are the front of the body. The chest, the front delts, that's all here. What about the back? What about your lats? See, the deadlift, because you're pulling something upward, they hit the traps a decent bit. If you're deadlifting very, very heavy, you're probably going to have okay traps, especially upper traps. Your lower traps, probably not that great either. But for a beginner, let's say, okay, you're hitting the traps. What about your lats, dude? The lats are an incredibly big, incredibly important muscle in the back. I think anyone who cares about aesthetics will agree that the lats are very relevant for that. And anyone who cares about actual performance, not just lifting a high number on 3 super specific lifts, but actually being strong and capable in a practical context, will also agree that the lats are incredibly important. You are not hitting your lats with a deadlift. You are certainly not hitting your lats with a bench press, and I don't think we really have to talk about the squat here. So you are already neglecting a big, important muscle group by focusing on the big 3, or even doing the big 3 exclusively. There's some easy fixes for this, and I'm going to talk about exercise selection in the later part of this video. But for now, let's look at some other deficiencies. What about your biceps? The biceps are being stretched, and depending on the type of grip you're using, they will be hit to some extent on the deadlift. But are you actually training biceps? No, not really. The biceps is not going to be the limiting factor on a deadlift. Your biceps bend the arm. Your triceps straighten the arm, extend the arm. Now on a bench press, you're extending your arm. Are you bending your arm really on any of the big 3? No, you're not. So biceps, another glaring deficiency, and actually a muscle group that I think a lot of people really care about, and a muscle group that just in your day-to-day life is incredibly involved in a lot of things. Really, most types of carrying activity involve the bicep to some degree. Lifting things, etc., carrying anything in front of your body is bicep work. The bicep is one of the most important muscles, in my opinion, when it comes to being functionally strong, capable, athletic, and it is completely neglected in the big 3. And then finally, the delts are incredibly neglected as well when it comes to the big 3. Sure, we are hitting the front delts with the bench press, but most people don't really have an issue with their front delts being too weak, too small. The side delts, the rear delts, areas where people are often already lagging behind, are actually not targeted at all by the big 3. So you're hitting 1 part out of 3 of the rotator cuff, which is fucking silly because your shoulders are what moves your arm around up here. So if you want to portray any kind of semblance of functionality, and also if you want to look good, you need to train those muscles. And the big 3 are not going to do that for you. Now, if you're kind of hesitant to follow the advice of some random guy with 100 subscribers, let me go ahead and ease your conscience a little bit. I didn't build these fucking guns with the big 3, let me tell you, and neither did anyone else who is packing anything close to what I've got here. So now that we have my qualifications out of the way, I'm just kidding. I have been lifting for about a decade now. I focus on strength, but also general athleticism. So all types of different stuff, speed, being capable of moving my own body weight, everything that is part of physical prowess, which means I have a much more well-rounded perspective when it comes to strength and athletic ability than a powerlifter, even a powerlifter who might bench more than I do. And let me go ahead and tell you that there is a quick and easy fix to make the big 3 a much better exercise selection right off the bat. I am not a huge fan of min-maxing, or this isn't really min-maxing, but sort of reducing your exercise selection as much as possible, trying to get a decent amount of gains out of as few exercises as possible. Because you're still going to spend a significant amount of time at the gym. Why not have a more variety? Why not have more fun being at the gym, doing different things, trying out different exercises, and also build a better physique? I don't really understand the appeal of doing just 3 exercises because it's going to get boring much faster and it's actually just worse. But for the sake of the argument, let's go ahead and assume that you must pick 3 exercises. Okay, there's a gun to your head and you can only do 3 exercises. You can only choose 3 to do to try and build a proper, well-rounded, strong physique. You can choose the squat. You can choose the deadlift. This depends on personal preference to an extent, but you cannot choose both. Okay? We're going to kick out one of these exercises, and I would favor kicking out the deadlift because it's a bit of a hybrid exercise. It hits the upper body a little bit, but also not really. And what the deadlift does for the upper body, you can do that with any proper pulling exercise and probably do it better. So I would eliminate the deadlift from the big 3 exercise selection. We got the bench press and squat left. Squat variation, go ahead and choose what tickles your fancy. I don't really care. And we are going to exchange the deadlift for the pull-up. There you go. Problem fixed. Problem solved. Just do pull-ups instead of deadlifts. Now, suddenly, we are hitting upper body 2/3 of the time, lower body 1/3. Already a much better exercise spread for a man. But more importantly, when we look at what the pull-up actually does for your body, and in particular for your upper body, because of course the pull-up is an upper body exercise for the back, we are hitting those glaring deficiencies I was talking about earlier when it comes to the big 3. The pull-up hits the lats, the pull-up hits the lower traps, and depending on how you do the pull-up, if you go into a full relaxed dead hang and you do a bit more of a wider grip maybe, you're also definitely hitting the rear delts. So now we got an exercise that targets almost every muscle group that we were lacking before. What I actually forgot to mention just there is that, of course, the pull-up also hits the biceps. Now, even if we were doing just one pull-up variation, maybe something like a shoulder width, a little wider than shoulder width grip, this is already far superior to just doing the big 3. Et voila, problem solved. So by exchanging just one exercise, we have already drastically improved your workout program, which is still a shit program if it consists of 3 exercises, but if that's what you want to do, if that's what floats your boat, don't go for the big 3. That's actually going to be it for this video that for once is actually short. I like to joke about the fact that I used to always say this is going to be a short video and then it ends up being long as fuck. No, this is actually a short video, but I felt like this topic is important to talk about because I've kind of mentioned it on the side in multiple videos in the past, but never really addressed it. And there are still a lot of people, when I talk to people on Instagram, talk to people in real life, who think the big 3 are a sensible exercise selection. And especially as a guy, that is simply not the case. The big 3 ain't it. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about this topic real quick, make this video. I'm probably going to make a couple of these going forward, just quicker, shorter videos where I address a specific topic, really just go ahead and talk business when it comes to these myths or these stupid ideas that I see floating around in the fitness industry on YouTube, because there's some concepts that are just silly, and if you think about it for a moment, don't really make sense, but people live by these stupid rules, and just start with the big three is certainly one of them that has really managed to stay alive for a lot longer than it should have. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, if you found it inspiring, whatever, if you gleaned some kind of benefit from it, go ahead and leave a like. I would very much appreciate that. Helps the algorithm. You know the drill. If you have any questions, any suggestions, or you want to boost the algorithm even further, go ahead and leave a comment down below. You can also go ahead and hit me up on Instagram in the DMs if you have a longer question, maybe more of a detailed topic to discuss, or if you're interested in a personalized workout program, that's something I do as well. If you want to get someone to coach you, help you get into fitness or go to the next level with your lifting, go ahead and hit me up on Instagram as well for that, and we can talk details. If you're interested in fitness, general health, and maybe philosophy as well, go ahead and subscribe and activate the notification bell. Or if you just want to support this shaggy barbarian on his journey of growing his YouTube channel, go ahead and do so as well. All that being said, I think that's actually going to be it for this, by my standards, very short video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, have a good one.